everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Detroit Allycat, and I have a really awesome case that I want to do with you tonight. So without further ado, let's get spooky. So it's super hot outside, and I can't believe how hot it is still inside my house. I'm gonna be honest about this case. It was very hard for me to decide if I wanted to do this case. I felt that it was extremely, it's graphic. So I'm going to give you a warning ahead of time. If you are upset by extreme graphic violence and I guess that's the only way I can say what it is. Extreme graphic violence. You might find this story upsetting. I found myself having a very hard time sleeping the week after I read it, did research on it. I just stayed up all night contemplating how something like this could happen. And I even contemplated if I should do this because I felt like these are things that are very, very serious and very, very hard to learn from, to be honest. So what could you learn from something like this? Well, I'm going to have to tell you about the case in order for you to know what you can learn from. But I think that the important thing to know is that this is not just a case about violence. This is a case about hope and what happens when a town comes together with their police to find somebody and hold on to the hope for that person to come back. And that is what this case is about. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. I really hope you heed my warning about this case. If you decide to go further into it and do research on your own, you might be having a hard time for a week or two to process what you will learn. So I'm going to tell you the things that I thought were important and the things that I learned after the case happened and all that good stuff. So this case is about someone named Jayme Closs. At the time of the case, Jayme Closs was 13 years old. She was very pretty. She had red hair. She was an all-American girl. She liked to do cheer, dance, jazz, ballet. It looked like her parents really loved her and wanted her to do everything that she wanted to do and wanted to be there to enjoy every moment of being parents. And so let's talk about Jayme's parents because this is very important. Jayme Closs was 56 and Denise Closs was 46. They looked like they were wonderful parents. They looked like they loved their daughter so much. I heard Jayme described as loving football and being outdoorsy, and the mom is being a fun, caring. She was a good mother. She was a good sister. She was a good wife. I mean, there wasn't very much that went on in that family that seemed like, I would actually have to say this was an above average family. Not financially, but as in good. They were just a very good family. I can't even go on about anything else besides that. That really is one of the hardest parts about this case, is that these were good people, very good people, and they were very hard workers. They lived in a town called Barron, and that is in Wisconsin. So the thing about Barron, Wisconsin is there's a Jenny O factory nearby, and that is where Jayme's parents worked. They worked at the Jenny O factory, which is a turkey factory. I don't eat turkey, I'm vegan, but I have been at the grocery store enough to know that Jenny-O is a pretty big name, and I've seen it at various counters in the grocery store. So, this is such a hard case for me. Something that I want to mention before I really hop on into the parts of the case that make the case go downhill. I guess not downhill is a bad way to describe it, but we really cross the normalcy of this family into the complete nightmare of what happened next. I couldn't figure out what I should wear for this video. I didn't want to be disrespectful, and I felt that there might be a chance that Jayme Closs might one day run across this video, and I didn't want her to think that I thought her case was cool, and I wanted to be respectful. And Jayme, if you're watching this case, I just want you to know that, like, you inspired me so much, because you inspire hope, and I couldn't really figure out what to wear without looking awkward, so I'm just gonna be myself. I'm very much pagan, and so you see a lot of pagan symbols on me and crystals and stuff like that. If I ran for the President of the United States, I would probably wear something like this too. Maybe a little bit more dressy or gothic, but this is me. Anyway, I digress. Let's go back into the story. It was October 15th, 2018. I believe around 12:55. Jayme was in her room and her parents were asleep. I don't know if they were dead asleep, but they were in their bedrooms. Jayme's dog started barking and woke Jayme up. Jayme went outside and she saw somebody downstairs with a gun. So, she went into her parents' room and she basically said, hey, there's a guy outside with a gun, and woke her parents up. So the next things that happened was Jayme's mother took Jayme and started to head into the bathroom. Jayme's father went downstairs and went to the front door. Now, there's going to be two different accounts of what happened because they happened simultaneously. The reason that we know about this case is because at that time, Jayme's mother picked up the phone and called 911. You can actually hear the footage. It is out there. I really suggest that you prepare yourself if you do, because what you will hear next is what happened to Jayme's father. Jayme's father had gone to the door and he had a flashlight. Listen, this is something that we do need to talk about. If you think that there is someone outside of your house, do not turn on lights. In fact, make it as dark as possible inside of the house. This way, you cannot be seen. And this is the reason for. I guess there was a part of glass to the door. I've seen the crime scene, so I don't quite know where it was. It might have been on the sides, it might have been on the top. I haven't seen the door, like, added to the crime scene pictures, but it looked like a normal door. Anyway, Jayme's father took a flashlight and basically flashed it outside, and at that time he heard someone say, "Open the effing door," and instead of effing, they said something else. I'm sure you know what. And so Jayme's dad, James, let's just call him James. James thought it was a police officer, or possibly could be a police officer. He said, "Show me your badge." And I'll tell you why this is, why James thought that it could have been a police officer. He had looked outside. I'm guessing what you would do if you had a normal glass window in your door, and he had seen somebody with a shotgun. Black coat, black tactical shoes, I believe jeans, and it's called a baklava. It basically goes over your face and all you can see is the eyes. I believe that the defendant, let's just call him that, was bald at the time. So it might have looked like it could have been some kind of law enforcement coming to your house. It would make sense that it would be law enforcement, but it wasn't law enforcement. So as James is flashing the flashlight through the glass to see who is at their house, Jake Patterson took his shotgun and aimed at the shadow of James and shot him in the head. So it is important for those who do not use firearms to know that one of the most violent and deadliest weapons used at close proximity would be a shotgun. I hate to tell you why this is, but I'm gonna. A shotgun shell is a plastic casing with metal BBs in it. When it goes into your head, it will leave a small hole. The back of your head would have a huge hole, where what was inside of your head would now be outside of your head. And that is what happened to James. May he rest in peace. The next thing that happened was Jake Patterson, 21 years old, took his shotgun and proceeded to shoot the deadbolt on the door. Then it opened. Jake Patterson said he saw James actually grabbing for his face and falling down. That is how quick those two shots happened. Upstairs, Denise and Jayme are in the bathroom, scrambling. They've called 911. The shotgun blast can be heard, I'm pretty sure, on the 911 phone call. Both Jayme and Denise heard the shotgun blast, and they both knew that James was dead. So they're terrified. Denise has put Jayme in the bathtub, and she's trying to barricade the door to the bathroom closed. This is something else I want to talk to you guys about. If you are being attacked in your own home, it might seem that going in the bathroom and locking the door is the best thing you can do, and I am not in any way saying that Denise made a bad decision, because no one knows how you would react in such a quick flash of life. You don't know, and you can only hope that you would make good decisions or ones that would lead to you being safe. Unfortunately, going in the bathroom not only hides you, but it contains you. There's nowhere to escape most of the time. If you have a bathroom door or window that you can jump out of, then by all means, barricade yourself inside. But if there is no bathroom door, don't go in it. Go someplace that you can get out of the room other than the door that you used. This is just something that I want to make note so we can learn from it. Like I said, this is not Denise's fault. She probably had maybe 10 to 30 seconds to decide what to do, and she did the best she could, really, honestly. And this is a very small town, extremely small. Crime doesn't happen. She's not law enforcement. She wasn't in the military. I can go on and on, but I'm hoping you understand the point I'm trying to make. So they're in the bathroom, and Denise is barricading the bathroom door. So Jake Patterson, who is 21 years old, comes up to the bathroom door and starts hitting it with his shoulders. I guess it took 2 tries to get in. He said that when he went into the bathroom, Denise was in the bathtub bear hugging Jayme. This is hard for me to get through because of how hard it is for me to imagine this at all. If you have a family, it's a very tragic it's a very tragic night if you have a family. So, by the way, the 911 call is still going on. Somehow during this, I think he told her to hang it up, and she did. So the 911 call is about, I think, 30 to 45 seconds long. So she's in the bathtub, and she's holding Jayme, And because Jake Patterson wants to make sure that they're really nice and good and terrified, not that killing their husband and father wasn't terrifying enough, he really needs to drive that in. So he grabs the shower curtain, which is like a plastic shower curtain with the regular rings on it, and pulls it down so the girls scream. And what happens is he tells Denise that if he duct tapes Jayme's mouth shut, that she won't be hurt. So Denise begins to duct tape Jayme's mouth shut. Jake says that Denise didn't do a good job, so he grabbed Jayme and did it himself. And then he duct taped Jayme's feet together. At this point, he grabs Jayme and holds her in the hand, and he takes the shotgun and he basically shoots Denise from 1.5 feet away, which would have been really horrific, and had you not had any kind of protection for your ears, would have been very loud, and it would make your ears hurt very bad. And I do believe that Jayme probably watched her mother being blown up, and also probably felt the blast of blood and brain matter or whatever else from her mother land on her body. Jayme's 13 years old. This would change her life forever. I can't say anything to make it better. It's just that bad. So he has Jayme, and now Denise is dead, and he takes Jayme and he's dragging her through the house. He drags her past her father, and he actually slides in the blood, and Jayme can feel her father's blood on the ground. As they go outside, he starts to pull her up to the car and demands that she runs, forgetting that he actually taped her legs together. Then he realizes that he taped her legs together, so he has to drag her. That kind of sucks. As you can imagine, she's probably being dragged on cement, grass. It's probably pretty brutal. He opens the trunk to his car, throws Jayme in, and drives away. It's important for you to note that the police responded to the 911 call within 4 minutes. So whenever you call 911, and this is really something important to note, no matter what, the police are going to have to respond, because many victims call 911 but cannot speak, and the police know that. So if all you can do to get someone to come to your house is press 911 and you have to be quiet, then by all means do it. Something else that you can do too, which I wouldn't recommend in this situation, is if you feel like you're in a dangerous situation, pick up the phone and call somebody that you know is awake so you can tell them what's going on, which, like I said, wouldn't work in this situation. But like, say you're walking back to your car and you're scared, you feel like someone's following you, I would call like your grandma, your sister, or you know what, just call the police. Tell them what's happening. Tell them why you're scared. Anyway, I really applaud Denise and her quick thinking for calling 911. And the fact that Jake Patterson was in and out of the house in 4 minutes after the 911 phone call was made just shows you how premeditated this crime was. So he takes Jayme and he actually drives away, and they hear the oncoming police officers responding to that 911 call. Jayme in the trunk of the car says she can hear them actually passing her. That's how close. In the police cam, you can see Jake Patterson's car driving away down the highway, and they would later talk about that car and discuss how that was probably or could be the assailant. So let's talk about Jake Patterson, because we need to know about Jake Patterson. Jake Patterson is a really disturbing person. You would think psychopath. I don't know if I think psychopath. I think issues, big issues. So he is 21, and he works at a series of temp places, working through a temp agency. He was working in Barron, Wisconsin, and he was working at a cheesecake factory, where on the second day, it was either driving home or to, that he saw Jayme get off the school bus. He said that when he saw her get off the school bus, he decided that that is who he wanted to take. He knew he wanted to take a girl. He fantasized about it for up to 2 years prior to kidnapping Jayme, and that was the girl he was going to take. He had decided that he was going to play mind games with her, mess with her, and make her basically his. So, that day that he got ready to do this, they actually found out that he had went to Jayme's house that weekend 2 times prior to the attempt, the real kidnap attempt, or it was successful, so the real kidnapping. So Jake had been to Jayme's house 3 times in total, and the 3rd time actually worked. Just so you understand, I'm going to say that again. Jake had gone to their house, the Closs's house, 3 times that weekend. 3. That night that he kidnapped Jayme, it was not the first night that he was there to take Jayme. So, also, Jake went through his father's weapons collection. The shotgun out of his father's weapons, that is the most common, or at least he thought the most common out of his father's weapons, which was the Mossberg. He took 6 shotgun shells, only 6, which, that's crazy. You would think that you would come extremely prepared, but he had a reason for every single shotgun shell. So he also shaved all of his body hair off, this way that there would be no DNA. He went to Walmart and bought the baklava. He made sure the way he dressed was very, unidentifiable, which really looked very similar to paramilitary training, which you actually learn that Jake was in the Marines for a month before being unable to complete the Marines, which is very interesting because there are very serial killers that go into the military and don't actually make it through their completion of their contract, and Jake only made it through 1 month. I believe it was something to do with a physical ailment, but I also believe, just from prior military experience myself, that it really kind of speaks of your character. Things do happen. They do. People get hurt in the military all the time. But 1 month into it, it's probably going to be pretty rare. There's probably going to be a reason why he couldn't make it through. That's all I'm going to say about that. So Jake has a cabin that his father is letting him stay at about 1.5 hours away from the Closses. It's more up north to the Closses' house, and that is where he takes Jayme. That's where he's been living. He takes her there. When he gets her to the house, he tells the defending attorneys that he noticed that she had urinated her pants, and that was particularly disturbing for me to find out, because when somebody does that, it literally means that they're so terrified that they lose control, and watching your parents be brutally murdered is definitely something that would make that happen. So he had her take all her clothes off in front of him, and he took them away, and he took his sisters. I never found out how old his sister was. They've kind of shielded his sister from this, which I think is very good. He took his sister's pajamas and gave them to Jayme. He tells Jayme, he doesn't tell Jayme anything. I guess he does say that he's sorry, but he puts her underneath his bed, and he sleeps on the couch that night. So something that he does is that he has these totes, and he puts weights in them. and then he puts them around his bed that's pushed up around the corner. And the reason for this is that if Jayme tries to get out from underneath the bed, he'll know. And he beat her a couple times when she did do this. So just remember that Jayme's been beaten for trying to get out from underneath the bed. And this is where this girl is going to remain for 88 days. She's going to remain at the Patterson retreat. That's what the little sign above the cabin said. It's a cabin. At that cabin for 88 days. I guess he cooked dinner with her. They played board games. He tried to mentally abuse her and get her to listen to him. He would tell her repeatedly that she could have it much worse, so she better behave and do what he says. There was a lot of mental manipulation. He told the interrogators that he was trying to get her to follow his orders and like him. So I guess he must have been pretty comfortable after 88 days. He said that he felt that he was never going to get caught. So he decided that he was going to go on a job interview. And something interesting to note is that on the job application, he said he was a good person and he is reliable and always tells the truth, or something very similar to that. He told Jayme that he was going to leave for 12 hours, and that was kind of common. He would leave Jayme underneath that bed for 12 hours, no water, no food, no bathroom breaks. He would turn on the music because you would later find out that Jake's father came to the cabin a couple times, and I think other family members did too, and they never knew Jayme was there, which is, I don't even know. And something else to remember, well, we'll go back and talk about Jayme's captivity after we talk about the good part. So this is the good part. This is like the silver lining. Jake leaves to go to this job interview, and Jayme, a 13-year-old girl, despite all the things that she has been through, takes the chance to get out of the house. She gets out from underneath the bed, rushes, puts on Jake's shoes, I guess they were on the wrong feet, makes it out of the cabin, runs all the way down the driveway of Jake Patterson's house and runs into one of Jake Patterson's neighbors walking a dog. Now, this lady said she had been a social worker. She really loved giving interviews, which I guess I would too. She said her social worker instinct kicked in almost immediately. She stayed calm, and Jayme's like, "Please help me. My name is Jayme Closs." The lady said she could tell instantly that that was Jayme, and she knew how close the house was to Jake Patterson's. I guess her property butt up right against Jake Patterson's, so she thought that it would be a lot safer to take Jayme 2 houses down. So she took Jayme 2 houses down, and they got wind to the neighbor's house, and they called 911. They actually have the 911 call of this. I listened to it, and you can hear the extreme anxiety of everybody in the room because they all thought that Jake was going to come back. Remember those 6 shotgun shells that I told you about? Well, Jake had all those shotgun shells pretty much planned. One for Jayme's dad, one for Jayme's mom, one for the door, and the other 3 he said he was planning on using on police officers if he had to, or protecting or keeping Jayme. So they knew that there was a very good chance that Jake, if he came looking, would go in there and kill everybody for her, because he's done it before. But luckily enough, the police get there, and Jayme is taken to the hospital where she is united with her family. Luckily, Denise and James both had brothers and sisters. They had been looking for Jayme for that entire 88 days. Everyone in Barron County, I think it's county, it's not a city. I don't know for sure. It's Barron County, Wisconsin. They had all been looking for Jayme too, and her classmates, everyone was so happy and relieved that she was back. Especially the sheriff, because he was really scared that there might be a chance that she might not be coming back. It's very rare for someone to be found after 88 days. Now, I know what you're going to say, or at least what you're thinking. Was she sexually assaulted? The answer is no. Apparently, Jake Patterson felt so bad at first and didn't do it at the end. That's why I have a problem with calling him a psychopath. He never raped her, he never touched her, he never tried to kiss her. He literally just tried to be her friend. I'm not saying you should feel sorry for him at all, because you don't know what could have happened if she would have remained there. But for 88 days, nothing happened. But he did say when he was being interviewed, he thought of taking multiple girls. So the time was literally clicking until he was ready to take it a step further, which is horrendous, really, really. So she goes back. I guess she's actually living with her mom's sister now, and she is being taken care of by the whole family. They really wanted to make sure she felt loved and happy. And of course, when the police officers went to go get Jayme, others were dispatched to find Jake. Jayme told them, "It's Jake Patterson who took me." And so they went to Jake Patterson's house. Something to note is that Jake Patterson went back probably a half hour after he left, and he started driving around. What he said was, "I needed to drive around and see what I could possibly do." See what I could possibly do really scares me, because I think he kind of did enough. But who knows what he could have done. I do know that after he murdered Jayme's parents, he took his shotgun apart, cleaned it, and shoved it in one of the various vehicles at the Patterson cabin. So that wasn't with him. But for 2 weeks after the murder, he kept it up to the front door, so if a police officer came to the cabin, he'd be ready to use it with those other 3 shotgun shells, which is kind of crazy that he was prepared to shoot at police. But that's what happens when people murder people. They're prepared to murder police too. So I thought it was really important to tell this story because, one, Jayme made it out alive and she's with family, and no one would have thought that could have happened. In fact, while Jayme was in captivity, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, that all passed by. And while she was in captivity, Barron County constantly had these vigils, and they put up a Christmas tree, and it was green and blue, and it said Jayme on it, and they never gave up. And her family actually had presents they put under their tree, so when Jayme went back to them, she had Christmas presents waiting for her. I just feel like it's very important that you guys understand that there are people out there like this, and that you need to protect yourself and be careful, because they will come and they will take whatever they want. I listened to the court case when they sentenced Jake Patterson, and his testimony was very, very chilling. He said he regretted it, he cried, he said he would do anything to take it back. But I think that he had regret about being caught, not remorse about doing it. That's what I think. I think that if he hadn't been caught, he might not have felt bad at all. And something that leads me to believe this is a year after it all happened, there's footage of him fighting with inmates. They actually had to ship him to New Mexico. I guess they didn't want to keep him in Wisconsin. One of Jayme's aunts worked in the parole sect of law enforcement, and they thought that it would be really bad if Jake and the aunt ran into each other because she dealt with prisoners. I'm not sure. They had him go to New Mexico. So he couldn't be in general population due to how violent the crime was. So they had to put him in this pod, and this pod was filled with very violent offenders, I think 12. And one of the guys confronted him and wanted to know about what he did. And when he found out about what he did, he wanted him to leave. However, Jake told this other inmate that him and Jayme talked online and he was helping Jayme run away. Just make sure that you guys all know that Jayme never talked to Jake. She didn't know who Jake was before that day. So that's a lie. So he lies, and he does it really well without looking like he cares that he's lying. And what's funny is that after Jake told this inmate this, I don't think he believed him because they began to fight. I guess inmates, because they're in and they might have kids on the out, they think that sometimes they protect their children by beating up or even trying to kill people that commit violent crimes against children. I can see why you would do that. I would just think that maybe you should just not go to prison, and that is how you could protect your child. But, you know, do the best you can with the life that you've caused, right? So anyway, I wanted to tell this story because I was so impressed with Jayme and not doing whatever at whatever cost to get out of there, and she did. And she is really the one that, you know, Jake Patterson will never be able to kidnap another girl because she stopped him, and that's amazing because she probably would have ended up dead eventually. Who knows? I hope that family can actually get some rest, and I hope that they can heal. I know that that's going to be like a scar on their life forever, and there's nothing that can be done from that, but we can remember the past so it's not repeated. I think that something else that's important for me to tell you guys about that I forgot to, or I just didn't include it, is that when Jake went to the Closses, he stole a license plate and he put it on the back of the car. That way that if the police saw him, they couldn't identify him or run the plate. He also had the dome light in the car disabled, so when he coasted up to the house, because he didn't drive up to the house, he coasted up so he was more silent. When he opened up the door, the dome light wouldn't go on, so he couldn't be identified, which is so premeditated and awful. The one thing that Jake Patterson did do is when they found him, they asked him, you know, what do you think this is about? And he said, I did it. And then when he got his defense attorneys, who did an excellent job of doing closing statements, but I still don't think that there's any way that you can make this person look good at all. They said that he immediately said he wanted to plead guilty. So there was no contest. Also, Jayme didn't have to go to court because of that, which is very good. She had an attorney read her statement to him, and it basically said, I feel that you tried to take everything away from me. You tried to take all of my freedom away from me, but now I'm the one with freedom, and you don't have freedom. And she asked the judge to give him the maximum. And the judge did give him the maximum. He got 2 life sentences with 25 years on top of it. He will be 107, I believe, when he is eligible for parole. So, that's Jake Patterson's life. I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope it gives you some eye-opening look into the fact that there are criminals out there, and that we should be careful, and that we should watch our kids, and that we should be very cautious as to how we answer the door at 1 o'clock in the morning. And also, we should be aware that when our kids take buses to school, there's people watching them, and we need to talk to them about how to be safe, because things like this can and do happen. And I've read so many cases, and I would love to say that this is like one single case, but it isn't. It's just one in a lot of cases. So if you like this case and you thought that I did a good job, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you don't like this case, but you thought I did a good job telling you what happened, please like, subscribe, ring my bell. Stay safe. Please always remember, never forget, and have a beautiful Saturday night. Hopefully this makes it out by Saturday. I've been kind of dreading doing this case, but I really wanted to do it. Have a great night.